Jay, we've talked a lot about managing teams, like internal teams, but
Hmm.
subcrews are a totally different
Oh,
ballgame, man.
yeah. Yeah, absolutely.
Like I can give you a whole bunch of problems I've had in the past with subcrews. Like they're just completely different. Their motivations are totally different. Their hours are different. The
Hmm.
politics are different. They're always after the best work and communication, man. By the time we got to them with communication on direction, they were already well into the process. Like,
Hmm.
talk to me about this.
Yeah. So, I mean, first things first is, from my experience, is that you can't treat a subcontractor like an employee. Obviously, that would be the wrong move. You have to treat them more like business partners, right? So I find that, the more organized you are, and the more pre-planned you are. So putting subcontractors in jobs where, or in situations where, they're being stopped, like just like you would treat your business or want to be treated, right?
Yeah.
You have to really think ahead. And again, it's planning. It's all planning. If you have a very good subcontractor, again, they're going to have a lot more speed. They're going to move through things quicker. They're going to need more quality control inspections. In my business, anyways, is that you have to stay on top of them and correct them. But ultimately, if you look for how do I create a win-win where my business is winning and the subcontractor is winning, it's pretty cut and dry, and it can be very, very good for a business, but it also can go very, very bad, right? So I think a lot of guys that have normally had hourly guys, when they move to subs, it's a huge shock. It's a huge difference in production, and it brings out all of the deficiencies they have in their business, right? The other thing is, again, I find a lot of general contractors, builders, stuff like that, they misuse their trades and they get a bad reputation very quickly,
Mhm.
right? It's a small world. I mean, how you treat your sub trades, even in your early days, right, will carry. It'll haunt you, right? I
Yeah,
mean,
bad
guys
reputation
will.
lasts a long time.
And in the employment
Especially.
market, it's really, I've seen full scale businesses just get stranglehold with it, right? Once they start losing the good trades and guys that don't want to work with them anymore, and it can be a bad project manager, it can be a bad process in the business. I mean, again, one of the things that we're always looking at is, how efficient do we make it to work for us? So, like, are we pre-planned? Like, our balances and controls, having simple things like, hey, did we go do a pre-job inspection, make sure that everything was cleared before we sent the sub, right? And again, guys get into the situation where they start to just send subs out and send them all over the place without doing their due diligence,
Right.
without doing the pre-work. And it always leads to the same outcome. The sub gets burnt out and doesn't want to work for them because they're not making money, right? And again, if you really, like, at the high level, understand that, hey, they're a business just like you, right? They're not your competition. All right. They can be your partners for sure. And again, I always put them at a level field with me in terms of me wanting to see them be profitable.
Yeah, and
It
successful. Yeah.
does me zero good to have an unprofitable subcontractor. Now, this goes against old school thought where, again, I know builders that, they find them poor than keep them poor, right? They just, and that's the wrong way to take it. And again, I think it's rampant within the market as well. Like, builders using their sub trades as the bank, is a good example. And again, it ruins their reputation. Like, they may get away with it now when things are a little bit slow, but like when things get busy, those subs disappear. They go do their own stuff, right? So
Yeah, they're
that
always going to find it better.
destabilizes.
Yeah.
That's right.
Yeah.
So I've always found, that there's a good, healthy balance between your in-house staff team and, having a decent set of subcontractors. And one thing that I've learned over the years is, don't think it's a forever thing with the sub. Always assume you have a 3 to 6 month window of good, efficient work, and be quick to fire with them, right? Be quick not to hire them back for jobs when things go wrong, right? I mean, that's your, you get to take that on, and that's a privilege of, hiring a subcontractor. You are paying a little bit more, but again, as things start to slip with subs, that's where you have to draw a line, and you have to, again, create separation, and have other subs ready to go. Like, it's a game, right? You can't fully rely on one sub, and I've seen that happen many times. I've made the mistake where, you put all your eggs in one basket, and then something happens on that crew, and then you're up the creek. So I've always for a very long time, it doesn't matter how much work I get, not one guy's getting it all, right? I'm spreading that evenly, and then I'm holding the subs accountable the exact same way. It's the same, same system for everyone. There's no favoritism. There's no politics. There's no, ways to get in the back door. Like, it's very cut and dry, and it's based on performance. It's data driven. It's metrics driven. And that's got to be, I think as we start to progress further as contractors, we're going to see more and more data driven, performance based things, because for so long, I would say builders, like, they don't keep track of that data. They don't know, and they build it on relationships. Well, I've certainly made that mistake. And what you find is as time goes on, performance drops and profits drop. And, all of a sudden, things come back. And the more that you've relied on the relationship, the worse the actual metrics are.
Yeah, that
That
goes
makes
both
sense.
ways too. No,
Yep.
absolutely. Like, even the contractor relying on you too much for work.
Right.
And then, you see the desperation, you see
Mhm.
things shift. I don't know if you've experienced this, but I have, where you have, your internal crew and your sub crews on one
Yep.
same project, and you're trying to work them under the same structure. It just doesn't.
No.
Man,
It's
like,
oil and water.
it's so much friction. Like, what do you
Right.
do?
Well, it's two different mindsets, right? So, I mean, again, I've always had the, and it might be different for different companies, but like our in-house staff aren't as fast as our subs, but I don't have to go back to their jobs. I don't have to, hold them accountable to certain things that have been policy. And here's the thing, subs disappear when things get busy. All right. Even the best of them do. They find their own work. They do their own thing. So I always look at it from stability and risk. All right. So if I didn't have an in-house team, even though I might pay a bit more, there's a couple of benefits to it, right? So the benefit one is obviously representation, right? I mean, I have, marketing, marketing pieces rolling around in every neighborhood with trucks and everything else. That looks good on the company, and going to, certain situations, you want to be branded and have that image.
Yeah.
But then on the other side, we do work with, some builders and stuff where speed is more about it, right? So we've gotten into the habit of using finesse, right? We want to finesse with the subcontractors, making sure that job by job, it's the right fit for them, it's the right fit for us. There's a win-win to be had. I'm not obligated to treat them like employees. So just like, again, you get burned enough times and you realize that, like, hey, you know what? There shouldn't be loyalty here. All right. They're not my employees. And I know it's opposite to popular thought or belief, but here's the thing. You're a risk manager, right? So if you put all of your trust into one subcontractor for this particular type of work, all right, over time, no matter what, like, you're going to have some sort of issues come up or come through.
Yeah, you're giving up too much leverage, for sure.
Right, and you're just getting over leveraged. So, again, there's healthy competition, and you can create that. And having 2 or 3, subs that can, perform the work is a good thing. And you don't be unfair with them. You give everyone the same deal. There's no, like I said, you keep the favoritism, the politics away from it, and you can run a very successful thing. It works for them. It works for you, right? Where I find a lot of our clients, especially, they've got it in their head, like they have to take care of the subs, and in a certain way, like, yeah, like certain conditions, like it's like, I want to walk a fine line here when I'm saying, like, I have subs that we definitely carried through the winter and we've taken care of, but like, again, at the end of the day, like, if push came to shove, if I was going to take in-house or the sub, I'm going to keep my in-house, right?
For
like,
sure.
You know what I mean? And then on top of that, even if the sub scored 100 on every fucking project that they did for me, I still have 3 in my pocket at all times, right? Like, I'll continue to go with it because I know it's not a forever thing, right? And it doesn't matter. Yeah. Well, and you don't want it to be where, you're over dependent or they're over dependent on you, right? So again, keeping that line where, we're looking for win-wins. If every transaction that we did together, you deliver what you promised and I deliver what I promised, then we'll always be able to work together. That's the way that we really look at it, as a transactional relationship.
Yeah, like, I can see that in an environment where you're managing the two. Like, you have your in-house staff, you have your contractors. There's a lot of businesses out there that use subcontractors.
100%.
Completely dependent on that.
Well, and again, and those are the guys that I've really seen this year and last year and during COVID really take a beating. All right. Because look at what happened during COVID. There was work for everybody, and like guys were going out and starting their own companies, and boom, like there goes the subcontractor.
Right.
And now they're trying to find somebody in the height of a boom where it's damn near impossible. And like I talked to so many guys that were the same kind of boat. They let go of their in-house team in lieu of having the subs, but didn't realize that, hey, you know what? These guys don't, like, when there's better ways, and you can't blame them. Like you do the same, right?
You do the same with your client.
Right. Yeah, so like you gotta plan for those moments, because they happen at least 2 or 3 times throughout the year where you're gonna have a period where you don't have subs because they've got their own stuff in a lot of environments, in a lot of conditions. Same with builders. Like, a good builder is gonna have 4 or 5 of them, and he's gonna have it planned out far enough in advance where he's got guys' commitments, got them signed, properly signed up. They know what they're getting into. And again, it becomes a good, profitable transaction for both sides, right? But if you're not planning and you're just kind of flying by the seam of your pants, like running out and, selling jobs and trying to throw a bunch of subs on there with no planning, that's again how you get a really bad reputation. And good guys they want stability. They want, again, that they can call on you for work, and they want to know what they can expect.
Yeah, they want a lot of stuff. That's kind of
Well,
part of the problem. Like,
but again, you're getting speed, right? You're getting speed. You're getting efficiency. You're getting lower liabilities. So, like, again, you got to take the good with the bad. And I found that it's finding that balance, because there is a sweet spot that you can keep subs where they're happy and you're happy, right? And that balance is what you're looking for. Like, if I had any message to send to anybody out there, is that always look at both sides of the transaction. Okay. If it's something that you couldn't see yourself doing, right, and it's not a good deal for you, all right, and you're putting a sub in a knowingly bad situation, or knowingly, like, that they're not going to make any money. Like, I've had those ethical, like, things where I've had guys come to me that would have worked for $1.50 a square foot. They come from companies working for $1.50 a square foot. In my mind, I can't lower my rates because I know he's going to lose money. Mm-hmm. All right, and he doesn't know any better. So, again, there's a lot of, ethical, I would say, responsibility there. Like, you steal $1 today, it's going to cost you 10 tomorrow, right? And I see that over and over and over again, where guys come in, they're maybe getting a cheaper rate, but like, man, you're going to pay for that, right? Like, you're going to pay dearly, even if he did a good job, all right? But you've underpaid him market rate. Well, you underpaid him what you would normally pay a normal, your normal trade,
right?
Okay. Who's that on, right? And eventually, again, right. So, and I see builders that, like, I've talked to a few builders that, like, they'll drop their normal, like, regular trade guy, all right, for this, next guy for 25-30 cents a square foot. It's like, yeah, but now you've sacrificed something there, right? And at the end of the day, like I said, if you're known for being fair, you can be tough, all right? But if you're not fair, you can't be tough.
Look, these guys,
you get what you get,
but they know what the job's worth. They know, like,
for sure.
And we've all been subcontractors. Like, I don't care who you are. And we all
at one point or another.
Exactly. So at the end of the day, it's easy to look back and reflect on where their mentality is, right?
But you know who good companies are and bad companies are, right? And it's usually how organized they are. That's what I've come to the conclusion of, and that's what we strive to do. Is that, again, like I said, the planning part, making sure that you're getting them in and out, making sure that you've, set them up to be successful on your jobs, will get them coming back for more and more. And then that's where, again, being clear about your boundaries, not, changing the rules, and messing with the pricing and stuff on this job and that job. Like, that's where I've really found that sweet spot for myself in our business is, that's the healthy balance. And, you keep a hands off. I'm not trying to be friends. I'm not trying to, we want a good, healthy relationship between ourselves and our trades. And again, I know what they want. There's still a data-driven element to it, in that we track everything. We track, every complaint. We track customer satisfaction rates. We track, quality control measurements. We look at it from those numbers. It doesn't matter. And it is from years of having the same problems where, you try to build a relationship with them, thinking that they're going to take care of you. All right. But in the same time, you're setting yourself up, right? That, assume that it's going to start to fade over time. Just assume, like everything does, right?
Yeah.
So you have to make sure that every job is exactly what you want. And the more that you can be tough on them and hold them accountable, the better the end game will be, right? And you might end up getting that long-term relationship. But I just see too many guys just, burning subs left and right. Like, it's bad for business. It's bad for the industry.
Yeah. Speaking of like bad for business, I know a lot of contractors. I mean, I've been there too, kind of struggle with the concern, especially, smaller contractors, the concern of sub trades, potentially making them look stupid in front of clients, taking clients, like,
yeah. And I mean, again,
those kind of risks.
Yeah. So like, that's all optics, right? So like, if you allow that and your business isn't set up to, be in control of their projects, you've got bigger problems, right? So like, I can safely say that no sub has taken work from us. Because of the way that we market, and we're honest with our customer. If we're using a sub, we're letting them know we're using a sub.
That's fair.
And again, we keep them accountable. We don't have them bringing their own material. Like, we supply all the material, right? Like, we're there when they're there. Like, we do our due diligence, and we don't have problems. Okay. We also, again, we check everything. If there's a problem, it's getting fixed. Like, we're not letting them slide on it. Like, there's procedures and everything they have to do for billing. And like, once they get through that first job with us, like after that, it's pretty easy for them. And that's where, again, it becomes an easy transactional relationship. And I don't depend on them. Like, if they leave tomorrow, oh, well, okay. We've got 3 or 4 or 5 that we work with, and we're only looking to the next job.
Yeah.
Right. We're not trying to get ahead of ourselves or, expect more, because that's how you set yourself up. Right. And that's where, again, after COVID, we really seen the power of that, of having a healthy balance all the way through and having consistency in our production. Right.
Yeah. I think you nailed it in the beginning about treating them like a business. Like that.
Absolutely.
That's just the mentality that kind of shifts everything, changes the process. And you treat them no differently than you would treat a client.
Right. That's right. And again, you set systems up just like you want to serve your client. Like, again, you make it easy for them to get paid. You make it easy for them to submit their pays. You make it easy to have work orders, to have clarity, to have, again, we make it so that it's easy for them to come and work for us. All right. And we want them to be successful. All right. We want them to get in and out on our jobs. That's the whole point of using a sub.
Yeah, that's true.
Okay. Right. So, but how many, you've been a subcontractor before, how many times have you been sent to jobs where like things aren't ready? No one's checked. Like,
that's the biggest nightmare. And that's what I mean.
Right.
Like, you got to be on your toes with subs, because they don't have the same type of tolerance that your internal staff will. If
Well,
material's
exactly.
not there and they have to wait 2 hours, they're gone. See you later.
That's right. Well, they got other things to do, because you're asking for their time for free.
Exactly.
Right?
And time isn't a product. Like, it's not something that you could put back on the shelf and sell later on. Like, that is their product. Like,
that's right.
Very temperamental about their time.
And again, I see the other side. I'll finish up with this, is that, setting your sub up for disaster is something like this. Hey, I'll give you a roofing example. A guy that does shingles and then asking them to do a metal roof. Not that I've done it. Right. Where you take somebody, and just because they're saying, yeah, and then you put them in it knowing that they're not going to be successful or without training. Like, I see that all the time, like asking the carpenters if they can, put on the drywall. Like, it's just not, we see that pretty consistently with guys. And I get it. Like, we're in labor crunches, and like, there's somebody there willing to do it, but don't do that. Right. Like, again, keep your trades to a specialty. And you don't want your subtrades learning how to do these things on your job sites. Right?
I'm smiling because it brings up some traumatic experience.
For sure, right? Did you take on some work you shouldn't?
No, but we had somebody do that and completely destroy a building of 12 floors. By the time we caught it, he was 12 floors ahead.
How?
And we're talking 10 years. Well, he was a leveling guy. He took on a different trade. And we set him up for it, and he was overconfident. Let's put it that way. He was just way overconfident. And, at the end of the day, it was our fault, but that's a whole thing, which makes me think that we might be glazing over this topic a little bit. So I'm dying to hear what our members have. Like, there's got to be a bunch of experiences that we can comment on.
I can tell you about one member that, again, like, hired the flooring guy to do roofing. So I know one member right now that and same situation.
Roofing tiles, flooring tiles.
Right? We do it all.
We gotta have.
Right?
I gotta hear all of your stories. Anybody out there that has something to share, please do it in
For
the
sure.
comments, because this is one that I think we're gonna do a take two on this one.
Mhm.
It's that hot of a topic.
Yeah, I think that, again, the principles are pretty straightforward. Treat subcontractors like a business, like a partner. Think about their benefit as well, making it a win-win, making sure you're organized, making sure that you're pre-organized and have a pathway for a sub to come in and be out of your job sites. We talked a little bit about optics, how you make it look and how you present it by using subs, and how to look at the relationship, right? So again, no different than dealing with your suppliers or anybody else. Like, there's still relationships and they're important, all right? But the more emphasis has to be put on the performance versus the person-to-person interaction, because I've seen too many times and fallen for it myself, where you really trust somebody, all of a sudden, you find out very quickly that the work isn't there, and the signs were all in front of you. Your mind allowed you to oversee that because you were busy. So again, using data to make decisions, it takes the emotions out of things. It takes the misleading conversations, and it just saves you so much time and aggravation.
Yeah, like I've had this saying: if you ever find yourself disappointed in somebody, it's a you problem. It's probably your fault. It was an expectation
Probably,
problem, right?
for sure.
All right, Jay, let's
Yeah.
finish it up here. We'll do this again.